Welcome to The Explainer. So, if you've ever watched a Japanese horror movie, played a spooky Japanese video game, or even watched certain anime, you absolutely know the golden rule, right? It's like the unwritten law of the whole genre. Never, under any circumstances, go to the bathroom alone. Honestly, it rarely ends well. But today, we're going to look at the incredibly fascinating historical and scientific truth behind this terrifying trope. Get ready, because we're exploring the mystery of the haunted toilet.
Seriously, think about it for a second. From the legendary Hanukkah-san, the ghost of the little girl who supposedly haunts the third stall of the school restroom, to those creepy, disembodied hands reaching up from below, Japanese horror is literally obsessed with the bathroom. But why? Why is this specific room always haunted? Now, it's super easy to write this off as just a fine, modern pop culture trope designed to scare kids. But the truth goes so much deeper. This fear of the restroom is completely hardwired into Japanese folklore, and the reasons why reveal a ton about history, hygiene, and the human mind.
Okay, let's dive into this. To actually understand where these monsters come from, we have to travel way back in time to 17th century Edo period Japan. Back then, toilets were known as the Setchin. And look, let me paint a picture for you here, because these were definitely not the pristine heated seat environments we all associate with Japan today. The Setchin were outhouses, entirely separated from the main living quarters. They were famously dark, incredibly damp, poorly ventilated, and just completely unhygienic. I mean, imagine walking out of your safe, warmly lit home in the dead of night, crossing the yard, and stepping into a pitch-black, foul-smelling wooden shack.
So, unsurprisingly, doing your business in the Edo period was terrifying. But here's the thing. The fear wasn't just about the dark or the terrible smell. People were consistently, genuinely reporting bizarre and frightening supernatural events inside the Setchin. We're talking about widespread reports of unexplained shadowy figures just lurking in the corners. People claimed to hear disembodied, eerie voices whispering to them while they were completely alone in the dark. There were even accounts of terrifying face-to-face monster encounters. The sheer volume of these reports basically made this section one of the most feared locations in daily domestic life.
Now, you might be thinking, if half the population is terrified of bathroom demons, they'd probably call in a priest or some kind of spiritual exorcist to cleanse the latrines, right? Well, instead, we get a guy named Yamaoka Genrin. He was a 17th century scholar, kind of like a cultural detective. Genrin wasn't interested in simply waving a sacred branch at the problem. He wanted a rational explanation. He theorized that there absolutely had to be a logical, worldly reason for why these specific, terrifying hauntings were happening almost exclusively in the bathroom.
So, what does this all mean? How did Jinrin actually diagnose the problem? Well, using the philosophical and scientific language of his time, he blamed the hauntings on what he called extreme yin energy. His logic was that the Setchin was a place where, obviously, human waste accumulated, generating extreme filth, horrible odors, and trapped dampness. This created a stagnant, highly concentrated pocket of toxic yin energy. Today, with our modern understanding of science, we obviously wouldn't call it yin energy. We'd simply call it a toxic miasma, or, highly concentrated methane and hydrogen sulfide gases.
Gendrin walked his contemporaries through this incredibly brilliant, almost modern piece of psychological and environmental logic. He basically mapped out this whole descent into madness. Step 1, the accumulation of extreme filth in a tiny confined space. Step 2, the buildup of that toxic yin energy. Again, the noxious gases. Step 3 is absolutely crucial. A person walks into this unventilated shack, breathes in this deeply toxic air, and it literally poisons their brain. And finally, step 4, the poisoned, oxygen-deprived brain starts misfiring, resulting in vivid, terrifying supernatural hallucinations.
But Jaren knew that to actually convince people that invisible energy was causing physical monsters, he needed a really strong example. So he looked outside of Japan and pointed to ancient Tang Dynasty China. He dug up this deeply strange, honestly kind of unsettling historical anecdote about a man named Li Qi to prove just how deadly and mind-altering this stagnant energy could really be.
So, the story goes that Li Qi spent way too much time breathing in the noxious fumes of a terribly unhygienic latrine. The gases poisoned his mind so thoroughly that he started hallucinating. But plot twist, he didn't see a scary monster. Instead, he hallucinated this incredibly beautiful goddess of the toilet. He fell madly, obsessively in love with this imaginary woman. The tragedy here, and honestly the very dark comedy of this incredibly morbid anecdote, is that Li Qi was so high on toxic fumes and so desperate to be with this goddess that he completely ignored the warnings of everyone around him and voluntarily drowned himself in a cesspool. I mean, wow. Genren used this wild story to emphasize the absolute absurdity and the fatal danger of letting toxic environments poison your mind.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real twist here, the fascinating reality behind the myth. When you break it all down, the monsters creeping around in those dark Japanese outhouses, well, they were never ghosts at all. There were no curses, no supernatural hauntings. The reality was a highly dangerous combination of toxic methane gas, incredibly poor hygiene, and chemical hallucinations. The demons were entirely real to the people experiencing them for sure, but those demons were born from terrible sanitation, not the spirit world.
What Yamaoka Genren was actually doing here was issuing a highly rational, urgent public health warning just wrapped up in the clever disguise of a ghost story. His core philosophy was pretty simple. A degraded, totally unhygienic environment directly corrupts your mental and physical health. If you allow your physical surroundings to rot and stagnate, your mind will just follow suit. It's an incredible piece of 17th century scientific deduction that holds up perfectly today.
Which brings us to a really fascinating realization about the present day. When we take this dark, stinky, hallucination-filled history of the old Japanese Setchin and hold it up to the light, it completely changes how we look at modern Japan. Obviously, Japan today is world famous for having arguably the absolute best restroom hygiene on the entire planet. But knowing what we know now about their folklore, you have to wonder, are they just obsessed with cleanliness, or is something much deeper going on here?
Just look at the modern Japanese washlet. It's a marvel. It is the exact polar opposite of that terrifying Edo outhouse. We're talking an incredible technological leap. Instead of extreme filth, you have these spotlessly clean, heated, self-sanitizing surfaces. Instead of stagnant, toxic methane, you've got high-tech, automated ventilation systems actively purifying the air. Instead of pitch-black darkness, you step into brightly lit, welcoming, heavily automated environments. If we follow Genrin's logic, simply opening a window, installing a heavy-duty exhaust fan, and keeping things pristine, well, that's the ultimate exorcism.
So the absolutely crucial point to take away from all of this is that our environments truly shape our reality. The ghosts of the Japanese bathroom? They were really just a symptom of a dirty, unsanitary world. I want to leave you with this final thought. The next time you visit Japan, or even just see a video of one of those spotless, high-tech Japanese restrooms, ask yourself, are they just cleaning up, or are they in their own unique way keeping the monsters at bay? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep those bathroom fans running.